Hey, deserving listeners, the trial. Let's watch.
You know what?
Doc.
I don't need you. I don't want your kind of woman. I don't want your kind of woman.
Doc, my dick.
I don't want your kind of woman.
Doc, my dick.
I
Hey,
might have. So my dick with you.
Okay, so they're listening to a recording from early 2016, possibly, and so the year that they got divorced, and she is saying, go effing suck your own thing, and he says, everything's fine until it doesn't go your way, and when it doesn't go your way, I'm in trouble. She says, hear me, suck your d, and he says, and you know what, I don't need you, I don't want your kind of woman. She says, suck my D. He says, I don't want your kind of woman. She says, suck my D. Johnny says, I don't want your kind of woman. It just goes back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually Johnny says, suck my D or yours? Amber says, yours. Johnny says, go find another D to suck. She says, I'm sure you will. And then he says, so will you. So they're just yelling at each other at this point. I'm wondering why they included this. Yeah, so it just goes on and on. They're just yelling at each other. Lots of F words. Yeah, well.
Mistake. I wish I had fucking hadn't.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I fucking hadn't. I wish I fucking hadn't bought into any of your fucking lies, your bullshit, your sober fucking presence, your fucking goodness, your sweetness, all the lies.
All right, well, this is consistent, I think, with her testimony that she is saying right now, I wish I wouldn't have fallen for your sober lies. And I think what she's referring to is that she saw him as all good, all bad, or at least in a non-borderline sense, that when he was sober, he was the real Johnny, and when he was intoxicated, he was the monster. And she loved the real Johnny, and when the sober Johnny, and when the sober Johnny would say, I'm sorry, I love you, I'll try to get better, you know, what I did when I was intoxicated was not the real me. I think at this point she's saying, no, that was the real you. You were just suppressing it when you were sober. I think that's what she's claiming.
I wish I hadn't bought into the months of you being you. I wish I hadn't bought into the promises. I wish I hadn't fucking thought I could have kids with you. You're a fucking kid yourself. I wish I hadn't bought into any of the lies you sold. Talk about fake bill of goods. You're the biggest you're the biggest fucking seller of fake fucking bill of goods. Talk about presenting yourself as something.
I did myself as a fake
suck my dick.
Goods.
Suck my dick.
I fucking you left nothing and I've left
Suck
everything. So suck your dick.
Yeah, go on.
Which is probably your next move because it's what you fucking need. No, I don't want to suck your dick. I don't want nothing to do with your fucking midsection.
Yeah, I don't know what this demonstrates. They're both yelling at each other. She's, in her typical way, more pronounced in her hostility, but he's being hostile too. They're both just attacking each other, which is, pretty rough and hard to listen to.
I need something you want.
Well, go get it, man.
Because I need something. Go on.
Huh?
Fucking fuck yourself.
No
shit, I don't. Suck your dick.
I don't want to.
You're trying. It's gonna be all me, yeah.
No, that's not really true, Amber.
Actually, it kind of is.
It kind of is? What are you talking about? You been doing some research? Oh, what is it?
No, I'm sure Rochelle's available. Call her up. I'm sure she's available.
Maybe she is.
I'm sure she is.
We'll see.
I'm sure she is.
Okay, so I'm guessing they're showing this audio, playing this audio, because it doesn't make Amber Heard look like a victim, which it doesn't, and doesn't make Johnny Depp look like a victim per se, but, I mean, maybe a little bit, but what she's laughing about right now, she's laughing kind of sarcastically because they're bringing up this woman named Rochelle, who I had to Google, and according to the internet, Rochelle is someone that Johnny Depp may have had a relationship with. And Amber's saying, so they're talking about sucking each other's D, and Amber says, I'm sure Rochelle's available, and he says, I don't know. She says, call her up, I'm sure she's available, and laughs, and he says, maybe she is, and Amber says, I'm sure she is, so that's what they're laughing about.
Oh, I'm sure she is. For her yoga vlog.
That fake laugh. That fake laugh is too much to take.
No, I'm sure she's...
That fake laugh is so disgusting.
I'm sure she's great. I'm sure she's great.
I'm thinking that you can give me some of the best performances in
No, you're right, I don't. It's all about performance.
It's about performance. However, I don't regret. I don't regret.
Oh, what else? What else that you do? Oh, come on. Steve, come on. Lay it on me. What else? What else other things do you want to add?
Can't talk to you.
Yeesh. Goodness, it's hard to listen to that. So if I was to take a guess, and this is just a shot in the dark, is that she was being hostile, suck my D, just really angry, and he was trying to kind of play along in a sense, like suck my D or your D. And he has a way in these arguments occasionally when he's, I think, regulated enough, he will start to make jokes. Not necessarily at Amber Heard's expense, maybe sometimes for sure, but I think it's his way of trying to deflect, trying to bring the energy down a little bit. I don't know. It does show that at least he doesn't get stuck in this rut like she does. She seems to get into this rut of hostility, and then there's really no getting out of it. For him, there seems to be some flexibility when they're arguing where he will be hostile, absolutely, but then there are times when he can kind of pull back, and we've seen a little bit that from her. But anyway, so I think he was making some jokes to try to diffuse the situation, and then she realized, oh, we're joking now? Okay, fine, I'll joke too, and I'm gonna do my version of that. This is just a shot in the dark, and so I'm gonna make a joke too, but it's filtered through this massive level of hostility. And it comes out as something very odd to me. I've seen this kind of communication before, of course, but it's not very common. I mean, how would I describe it? It's like condescending on top of condescending. You're trying to belittle someone, and you're trying to come across like you're above it all. And it's like, ha ha ha, this is so stupid. You're so stupid. What a joke. You're a joke. I think this is funny. Oh my goodness, this is just so fun. And again, all of us are prone to at least a little bit of this when we're in a fight. All of us have probably done a much smaller version of this. Like, you're in a fight with a partner, you're very, very frustrated, you're very triggered, and they say something that you think is ridiculous, regardless of if it is or not, and you're just like, what? So that little laugh right there is, you're not actually humored by what's happening, right? You're trying to belittle the other person. It's a sarcastic laugh, right? And if you have a particular issue, the sarcastic laugh is going to come across as much more intense.
And John, it's all about performance.
However, I don't regret. I don't regret.
Oh, what else? What else that you do? Oh, come on. Steve, come on. Lay it on me. What else? What else other things do you want to add?
Can't talk
You
to you
fucking lying piece of shit. What? Oh, no, I want to know. I want to know.
Get out your Ubers out.
I'm kind of waiting. You go get it.
Yeah,
Wait, is there no other place for you to run in your 15 other houses to go?
Wow. I understand why people get triggered by this. If you're pro Johnny Depp, or at least not on Amber Heard's side, and particularly if you've been abused by someone that had this kind of behavior towards you, like, this could be rough. Yeah, I mean, there should be some sort of public service announcement saying, like, for those of you who have traumatic histories, you probably shouldn't be watching this trial, honestly, because this could be a public health concern. I wonder if someone's going to do like a dissertation on this, or some study, some peer-reviewed study of the increase in certain kinds of issues during the trial, the increase in depression or suicidal ideation or suicide completions, phone calls to domestic violence advocates, this kind of thing, because people are being made more aware of, like, oh, that happened to me. Was I abused? Am I being abused? Maybe I should call. Hopefully, I hope that is an effect. But also the amount of PTSD triggering that could happen from this. It's not often that we have a public event that everyone is watching that is so triggering. It's one thing to see a scene in a movie, which can be very rough for people. It's another thing to hear an actual audio recording of someone acting this way. The level of hostility there, and how it just doesn't seem to match. It just does not seem to make any sense. I mean, this is a clip, so maybe there's something that preceded this that somehow not justifies it, but explains how she got into this state. But it's just so frequent that we've heard audio like this where she just is so hostile and mean and ridiculing and belittling and bulldozing and just not listening at all. And, you hear what he's saying. It's hard to hear what he's saying. I mean, he's not raising his voice, but, he's not being nice to her. But certainly it's not on the level, at least seemingly on the tone level, just the amount of vitriol that is coming out of her, that it's hard to believe. It's hard to reconcile that with her account and her claim that she was this constant victim. Can a victim do this at times? Absolutely. Are there isolated moments where the victim will have an abusive moment or just a freak out moment because of the strain that they're under? Sure. But you would think that if she were a constant victim, there would be so much more indication of that and much less of this kind of data, right? And there's different experiences for victims, right? And the experience that she describes is really severe. And she claims this, that she was pretty much in a constant state of fear. She did not feel safe. He had abused her in a variety of ways. Repeatedly, he would just explode and repeatedly just assault her and beat her and punch her and throw her around and drag her around, assault her sexually and beat her to unconsciousness more than once. And in that situation, you would imagine that you would not feel safe and that you would be in this constant state of survival, that you're just trying to survive. In fact, part of the reason why the abuse cycle can continue for so long is that the victim, because they're only thinking about survival, they have no time or space or mental capacity or the privilege to think about how to get out of the relationship or even what they think about it. As an analogy to this, imagine that you are in Ukraine and the Russians invade and you're in one of those first towns and the bombs are going off and the troops are coming and you hear gunfire. Well, all you're going to be thinking about is survival at that point, right? You're not going to be thinking about anything else. You're not going to be thinking about, I wonder where I'll go on vacation next, or I wonder how I can self-actualize. Like, where's my life going? And, I wonder how I could really further my career. No, none of that stuff is happening. All you're going to be thinking about is, how do I not die? Where do I go? Where do I run? How do I get in contact with someone that can save my life? Where are they coming from? Where are the good guys? Where are the bad guys? Can I hide? Like, that's all you're going to be thinking about, right? It's rational. Well, imagine this is your life every day, which is what it's like to be in an intimate partner violence relationship on the level that Amber Heard claims. So you're not going to be thinking about anything else. You're going to be trying to survive. And so it is nearly impossible to even notice how you feel. When you're being abused and it's this constant event, you are oriented outward to try to manage the abuser. And so all of your attention is trying to monitor them, to gauge like, okay, how do I react to them? How do I please them? So you don't even have time to think about yourself. And for some people, they've been this way their whole life because they were abused growing up. So you don't have time to think about it. And when you're given a chance to actually breathe and get away, or you're in a conversation with them and there seems to be some tension, because you're oriented towards safety, you're not going to attack them, right? Now, you might occasionally, for sure, but it wouldn't be your go-to response. It'd be as if you're a Ukraine refugee. The bullets are flying, the bombs are going off, your house is blown up, and you're trying to get away on foot and you don't know where to go. Now, these are things that are actually happening, and unfortunately, a lot of people have died under these circumstances. So just imagine, for this refugee, they're running away, their house just got blown up, and they're looking back to their house, and a Russian tank runs over their shed. Well, what do you think the victim is going to do? Are they going to go, hey, and they run up to the tank and say, no, you ran over my shed, you have to pay me for that? No, of course not. The the Ukrainian refugee is going to be like just happy that they're still alive. They're like, screw the shed. And to turn back to the aggressor and to confront them about this and to berate them. No, I'm just trying to survive the next 30 seconds. So whatever I need to do that, I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to think about an injustice. I'm not going to think about my own needs. I'm not going to think about confronting them. I'm just trying to get to safety. That's all that I'm trying to do. And that's what it's like to be in the kind of relationship that she is portraying, the kind of relationships that she's claiming that she was in. So it would be very unusual for a victim in that state to even occasionally just go after the abuser the way that we've heard in these clips, particularly even hitting them, right? Now, it can happen for sure, but the level of abuse that she's claiming and the frequent examples in the audio where she's just going after him, she will claim that, well, I don't even know exactly what her claim is exactly. I mean, I think her claim is that I don't even know. She doesn't really have a good narrative for that, right? Because she hasn't really, she said things in the periphery of that, but I don't think she directly addresses why she would be saying those things. I'm guessing we might get some answer from her here.
Run. Come on, go be a real married man and go deal with your shit the way that a man does. Go run to the next house. Every man does.
Yeah.
Go. Run away. I know it's hard to look at yourself.
Fucking ridiculous plan.
It's
Your
hard.
panic fucking plan.
It's hard. It's hard.
Screwing everybody else over. Getting
You're
your
right.
fucking,
I tried. That's what I do.
You're the most spoiled fucking brat.
Now, what I will say, this is indicative of an abusive relationship. This is what you will see. I don't know if that's what we're witnessing. A lot of people believe that. I think a lot of the jury believe that. But this is absolutely one of the tools that abusive people will use. Not every abusive person, but many will. At least the broader category of belittling and ridiculing and not listening and just treating the victim like they're just this complete idiot all the time. You're just a piece of crap. Oh my God. I can't even emulate it really. I don't even want to emulate it. And if you've ever been the victim of that, like, you know how that feels. It's hard, even if in the beginning, and I'll just speak from my own personal experience, I've had clients who will treat me this way. It's rare, but it happens sometimes where something in our relationship will trigger them, not really to this extent, but in this category. And in fact, I did a research study on difficult clinical moments for seasoned psychotherapists, phenomenological study. And it gave me a lot of opportunity to think about my own difficult clinical moments. And the one that always came to mind was this one instance where this client who, I don't know if she had borderline, but she might have. It was in the very beginning of the therapeutic relationship. And she was doing not this, but in the same category of belittling me and putting me down. And it was just unrelenting. And in the beginning, I handled it fine because I was seasoned. I had been a therapist for 15 years and had specialized in people with borderline. And so I had gotten used to not only that kind of targeting, but also just generally speaking as a therapist and as a supervisor and professor, you gain confidence enough and experience enough to be able to go into a mode of just like, oh, okay, well, maybe my client is right. Maybe I did make a mistake, but I don't think the level at which they're criticizing me is very fair. But I'll listen, and I'll hear it, and I won't defend myself. I'll just encourage them to keep telling me how they feel, because that's good to know. This is a safe place. And I did that for a long time, but eventually, like, the belittling and the ridicule and the put downs, and it just got under my skin. It got overwhelming, and I had a total panic attack where I started sweating. I couldn't think straight. My heart was pounding, and there wasn't a threat, right? There wasn't I didn't feel like I was going to get attacked, but the belittling behavior, it's aggressive and it hurts and it gets on your skin, and it can be very scary in this odd way. And I remember, so I'm sweating and I'm starting to lose it, and I'm starting to have these urges to just run out of the room, and my heart is pounding and I'm panicking, and I'm like, why am I panicking? But I was, and I thought, okay, don't run out of the room. That's stupid. And so that's all I could kind of think of, right? I was like, run. I'm like, no, don't run. You're in the middle of a session. Don't do that. And I just put my head in my hands and leaned over, trying to just catch my breath or something. And the client is continuing to berate me and put me down. And what she was berating me about was just like, she felt like the therapy hadn't helped her yet. And which is fine, like that's fine. Let's talk about that. Let's change, or maybe I'm not the right therapist for you. And so I was bringing up those issues. So there, she wasn't attacking me for much other than that, right? It was just some things along those lines, but somehow she got in there into my soul. I'm bent over and she's continuing to berate me. And I say to the ground, I say, I just need a couple seconds. Can we just stop talking? Because I can't think straight, something like that. It's like, that's all I could get out. And she at that point was like, oh, I think I've crossed the line or something. She stopped. And, I'll spare you the details in terms of the rest. And, the therapeutic relationship continued. And I feel like the therapy helped her somewhat beyond that point. It wasn't a very long relationship. It was maybe just a few months or something. That's certainly not enough time to do a lot. And, part of her criticism was actually valid, because I was detecting a personality disorder in her, or at least I suspected. And I usually take a long time to have a solid conceptualization of that ongoing, because the symptoms of a personality disorder are so believed by the client that it's hard to get a self-report to know what's really going on with them, because you don't know if they're distorted or they're telling the truth, or something in between. So I'd been holding off on really landing on a conceptualization. I just was detecting things. So when I detect that, I tend to go a lot slower in therapy, because if I start to introduce things, it can inadvertently trigger the client, and then they will blow out of therapy and I'll never see him again. And that wouldn't be very useful for me to do as a therapist, right? And this happens to a lot of people with personality disorders. They'll go to 1 or 2 sessions, the therapist will inadvertently trigger them, and the client will blow out of therapy, never go back. So, and I've been around the block enough times to know that that's a risk. And so I was being very careful about what I brought up, and I was listening a lot. And so her attack on me that I wasn't doing anything, it actually did hit kind of a nerve, because on one hand, I felt like I was doing her a service by going slow and listening a lot. On the other hand, there was a paranoia on my part that I might be weak and afraid to do my job. And I was afraid to step up to the plate and actually take a swing. I don't think that was true, but that was some shadow side to that confidence. And that's what she got at, and that's when I crumbled, and it must have touched on something from my childhood. We've all been through moments when we feel like we're not good enough, right? And so it somehow got to that place in me, and I had a panic attack in the middle of session. That's never happened before. I've never had a panic attack. I've had panic attacks in life, but not in the middle of a session. So anyway, long tangent. I don't know if that's what we're hearing right now, but it's pretty rough just to hear that. And we have to imagine that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We understand that these audio recordings are a small representation of the entirety of their relationship. And it makes me wonder, does she know she's being recorded? I suspect not, because why would she be doing this? But imagine if she did know that she was being recorded.
And you got everybody out here almost full, but it don't last long.
You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. You got it figured out.
You don't have... Figure out what you have to offer as opposed to going out and get your hits out.
You're right. That's what I do.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
London Field is excellent.
You're right. You're
Excellent
right.
choice.
Back to that. Well, I wonder what we else... I wonder what else we can reach for in the last 60 minutes.
I wonder if she'll also say, yeah, I was losing it because I was a victim for so long that I just started losing it. That would be one thing you could possibly say to defend yourself.
Oh, no. It was 4 years ago. You're right. I'm sure there's other things you can say.
Go loud.
No, I'm not laughing.
No, matter of fact,
I'm
laugh
not laughing. I'm not. It's serious. I'm sure you can find other things.
I know. And stripping. Man, well, there's always that. You can always go back.
You can write a book. You can write a book. I know you can write a book. Oh, is this...
Yeah. I don't know if this is what we're hearing, but when abusers are trying to establish control and they're trying to keep the victim as a victim, they will utilize a lot of techniques, one of which is to belittle and more broadly to gaslight, to make the victim feel as if they are an idiot, that they cannot gauge reality. That person is ridiculous. And it's hard when you're in a relationship when you're kind of unsure about what's happening, but the other person seems so sure that you're an idiot. And you rinse and repeat that enough times, and it's hard not to let that get under your skin. Even people that don't have abuse backgrounds. We are social creatures. And so when we experience a social reality, it tends to become our reality. When we're treated a certain way so consistently, it definitely starts to get under our skin, even if we're actively trying to fight against it. So that kind of behavior of like, now that you're speaking up and I have no defense against what you're saying, what I can do is to dismantle you as a human being, to dehumanize you, to make you seem like you are ridiculous, just baseline. And so I don't need to defend myself because I can't, but because you are a ridiculous human being, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make you believe that you aren't worth it, that you are not a real human being, that you have no voice, and that your thoughts are ridiculous to begin with, and you deserved it, all of it. You deserve this, you deserve the past, you deserve what I'm going to do to you in the future. I mean, it is insidious.
Oh, should I have you sign an NDA for your book?
You don't even
Your book.
No,
Is this
no.
gonna be good for your book?
You won't even
Is
make
this
it
gonna be
a
good
book.
for your book? Hey,
I'll write what
hey,
I want. I'll
I
write
have a
what
good
I want.
idea.
All right,
How about you
well.
sell more of your journals? You don't want to sell out or anything. Let's sell you journals. Oh, wait.
Hey.
I will say that I've also seen this in codependent people who were socialized when they were young to be in control of other people's lives, to save them from their own problems. Often it's because of a drug and alcohol problem, and they believe their whole worth is around helping and controlling someone that needs help and control. And they are obsessed with the person who has a problem. She claimed that she had, or what, I need to modify what I was saying earlier, because a therapist had gone on the record and said that she reported to that therapist that she had codependent tendencies. But then when the attorneys asked Amber Heard about that, she said, I see that in the record, but I never said that to the therapist. So who knows what that means. But I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't have codependent tendencies because of the way she was raised. There were certain indications of being parentified and having to grow up too fast, being responsible for things that she probably shouldn't have been responsible for when she was a child. And then her obsession with his use. It's hard to know if that was pathological. It's common even for anyone when you have a partner that's suffering from a drug addiction as much as Johnny Depp to get wrapped up in it because you care about your partner. But she did talk a bit about the way that she would get entrenched in that. And it's not always codependent people, but at the very least, I've seen this behavior before, and it is very disturbing that when the under-functioning individual, the person suffering from a drug addiction or some kind of mental condition, the codependent person, and not all codependent people are like this, but the controlling, abusive type of codependent person, they know that the under-functioner is deeply ashamed of who they are and will utilize deep shaming behaviors as a way of keeping this infused, keeping this relationship the way that it is. Because the codependent, controlling, abusive person, not all codependent people are abusive, by the way, but it's a type, and they depend on this relationship to be around, and the way that they make sure this relationship always stays is to keep the under-functioner under-functioning. And one of the ways you can do that is to make sure that person is always ashamed of themselves, because either consciously or unconsciously, the codependent person knows that the under-functioner is driven toward their problem by shame. The more shame they feel, the more need they need for the substances. So I don't know if that's what we're seeing right now, but it certainly would explain it. And who knows, but total hypothesis that for Amber Heard, if she detected she was going to lose him, this could be a last-ditch effort to try to get him to stay in a relationship with her by shaming, getting him to further underfunction. Then he will need me and he won't leave me. I mean, that's a total shot in the dark, but I've seen it before.
Hey, you're not
you don't
watching.
sell out.
No, you're not selling
You don't
out.
sell out, Magic Mike.
No, Yeah, because no one does 21 Jump Street when they're in their 20s. No, you're right. That's not selling out. No. When you're in your 20s, you should really know what you want. Like selling your journals.
If you didn't know who the fuck I was.
You're right. Go sell your journals like a real non-seller. 55-year-old. Or, sorry, 56. 51. I don't know. It doesn't matter at this point.
No.
I don't think so.
It really doesn't.
I don't really think so. But you're right. I mean, hey, at least I didn't do like a TV show where I was heartbroken in my 20s. God, that would be like embarrassing.
Yeah, so I guess she's making fun of him in an area that she knows is a sensitive issue for him, that he thought of himself as a serious musician, as a alternative or punk rock musician in the early 80s, and he was trying to get work to pay the bills, and he landed this acting gig in Nightmare on Elm Street, and then quickly after that was on 21 Jump Street. So she's trying to ridicule him around that he's a sellout, and that's a sore topic for him, apparently. And she knows that. Now, we do know, or at least there's allegations, that he would say similar things to her, and we have some wondering about some of the things that he would write on lamps and mirrors, if he was talking about her or he was talking to himself, unknown. But yeah, pretty hard to listen to.
If only I was with someone in their 50s that could point that out to me. Imagine mine. You're right. When you play a non-sexualized object. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You're right. You got me. You got it all figured out.
You don't even know what movies I've done.
If only
You haven't even taken an interest.
If only I could be like
but I had to
you. If
watch
only
your
I
fucking-
could be like you.
So it's hard to hear what he's saying because he's talking very quietly. He's kind of mumbling, in my opinion. It's possible that he is saying some awful things, but they just happen to be kind of quiet, right? It sounds like maybe she's responding to that he was being insulting to her, and she's defending herself, so to speak, by attacking him back or something.
You're fucking direct, and you trying to like
You're a joke.
spew out these fucking lines.
You're a joke. You're a joke.
Yeah, I'm the joke in the industry, Amber. I'm the joke. I'm the joke in the
I'm
industry.
sorry, I can't really hear you. I'm sorry. The reruns of all my bullshit are playing too loud for me to hear you. I'm gonna just go and pedal my way back. Sorry, I can't hear you.
I mean, another aspect of this is it's a glimpse into at least two famous people's lives, and it's interesting to hear the kinds of things they talk about. Now, these are particular kinds of famous people, but we could imagine other famous people in their relationships having similar issues and insecurities. They both seem to be saying that the other person has insecurities around selling out or how they're coming across as an actor in their overall career, and at least she's attacking him. It sounds like he might be attacking her. It's possible that he was attacking her about getting roles because of her sexuality and not because she's a good actress. I think at least she would say that he would frequently say that to her. It sounds like maybe that was being said, but I don't know. Putting them aside, it's just, because when you see the glamorous life of these famous people, you think, well, they've got it all. Their life is put together. They must go to bed every night just marveling at how wonderful they are and how everyone loves them. And then you hear this and you think, well, not so much.
Aquaman.
Oh, 21, whatever it was.
I was
Anymore.
I was 20.
No one cares.
Washed up piece of shit.
What?
Washed up piece of shit.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh,
What? I can't hear you.
your jealousy's so tragic.
I'm sorry.
Your jealousy's so tragic. Fucking like thinking that I'm going on a road with a band.
I can't hear you.
You told Mr. Depp to suck your dick multiple times, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You tell him to go run to his 15 other houses, right?
That's correct.
Because that's what he would do when you behave like this, isn't it?
Eventually, he would go and stay in one of the other houses.
You call him a sellout, don't you?
I was expressing frustration about His criticism of my career and how many problems that caused within the dynamic of our relationship, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense that she would say that. It could be true, could be a lie, could be the way she sees it. But yeah, she could say, well, yeah, I was saying those things to him because I had been abused and frustrated, and he had been saying those things to me. But the recordings are just so one-sided, or at least 80-20%.
So you call him a sellout and a joke?
I called him horrible, ugly things, as you can hear. And
Sellout.
We spoke to each other in a really horrible way.
Pretty sure we just heard you speak to him in a really horrible way. You called him a sellout,
I just
right, Miss
disagree.
Heard? You called him a sellout, right, Miss Heard?
I called him a lot of ugly things.
And a joke.
I called him a lot of ugly things.
You called him a joke on that recording. You called him a washed-up piece of shit.
I think we both called each other that on that occasion, yes.
Mr. Depp mentions Aquaman, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Mr. Depp got you that role in Aquaman, didn't he?
Excuse me?
Mr. Depp got you that role in Aquaman, didn't he?
No, Miss Vasquez, I got myself that role by auditioning.
I mean, I don't know if that's a good direction to go in, because even if Johnny Depp had got her that role, like, what does that mean? I mean, I guess that would mean that he's nice to her in that instance or something, but that could come across as attacking her. I mean, she was a younger actress, and yeah, some of her career could be attributable to her connection to Johnny Depp. Why not? If Johnny Depp can introduce her to people, she still has to get the role, right? Everyone understands that. So yeah, I don't think that's a good direction to go in my opinion. If I was on the jury, I'd be like, oof.
That's
Mr.
how that
Depp
works.
says, quote, "Your jealousy is so tragic."
I heard him say that, yes.
You were the jealous one in this relationship, weren't you, Miss Heard?
I think he was indicating I was jealous of his career.
Yeah, I don't think that's not what I heard. I heard what Amber Heard is saying, that he was saying that, oh, you're just jealous of me. That's why you're attacking my career. You're just jealous of me, that kind of thing. And I don't think what he's saying is you're the jealous one and that's why you attack. Well, I guess maybe that is what they're trying to demonstrate. Maybe it does work on the jury. It's not working on me. That the reason why she abused him was because she was jealous of his career, and that she only got involved with him because he could get her a career. I do not think that that's what happened. The way that they both tell how they met, he pursued her, and she was head over heels in love with him.
And I'm really, really, really sick of this argument.
Stop, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let me go, and you go, and I'll speak to you in a couple hours. Okay? Okay?
Stop. Okay.
Why are you saying stop?
Because
May
you're being
I
so-
go?
Please, it causes me so much stress when you leave, when you walk away from me with that. It's like you don't understand how much worse you're making this.
Okay, so this is, according to the internet, early 2016, January 2016, and the transcript here, we hear it. He is saying, okay, let me go, and I'll speak to you in a couple hours, okay? He did that pretty well. There have been other recordings where we heard him not try to help her out with that. You know, whether you're avoidant, attached, or not, and you're trying to take a break from a conflict and your partner has preoccupied attachment or borderline, it's very triggering to your partner to take a break, even if it is good to take a break. And so you need to say, we're going to take a break, but I'm not rejecting you. It's just going to be temporary, and then we'll talk again, okay? Because to the preoccupied borderline person, to say that you're going to separate, to them, they will distort that, or a good portion of them will be paranoid that that means it's the end of the relationship, and that is very, very terrifying to them. And so they will resort to try to control or to stop or to bar someone's ability to leave, or they will become abusive, or they will decompensate, fall into the abyss of despair. So you want to tell them, it's like, we're just going to take a break. It'll just be a couple hours. And his tone of voice was convincing. It sounded convincing. It sounded like maybe they had been in therapy and he had been coached to say something like that. And she says, stop. And he says, why are you saying stop? Now, at that point, if I were a little birdie on Johnny Depp's shoulder, I would say, don't get triggered. Don't get wrapped up. She said stop, but you said that you'll be back, and just don't get wrapped up in it. Because for people that are preoccupied and borderline who exhibit this kind of behavior, they don't always do this, but they'll resort to anything to keep you around, including things that aren't very fair, including even getting negative attention. They're just desperate. They'll just say anything to get you to not leave them because, as she expressed, she becomes extremely distressed when there's separation. And I think in this moment, it's one of the more honest moments from Amber Heard that she is exhibiting what I think is driving all of their problems, or a majority of it, is the deep amount of stress and pain and fear and the abyss that opens up before her when there is the prospect of abandonment and loss, even if he's just going to be gone for a couple hours. Because to the individual, when you're in a conflict with your partner, you justifiably worry, well, but you have a lot of negative thoughts about me right now, and if you leave, it's just going to stew. It's just going to get worse, and I have to manage that. I have to get out ahead of that and get you to stop thinking about me in that way. And of course, it's a normal impulse, understandable, but it's not very functional in that moment because for the preoccupied borderline individual, they don't manage that conversation well. If they could somehow, okay, I'm going to come before you go, I just want to say, please tell me that you don't hate me. I hope you know that I didn't mean what I said earlier, and I regret, try to clean things up a little bit in this very fast way, and then there could be separation. But because the borderline preoccupied person is so triggered, once you re-engage, they just start laying into you again or something. But this is interesting, and I've been saying from the beginning, or early in this series of reaction videos, that I feel bad for both of them, and I particularly feel bad for Amber Heard. Many people would say she deserves everything that she got, but prior to the allegation in the Washington Post and all the other things that have happened around this trial, there was a time, and we're hearing evidence of that, where she was suffering a great deal. The abuse, if abuse was happening, the abusive behavior came from that suffering. It doesn't justify it at all, but every perpetrator that I've treated has this behind it. Whether they are able to express it or not depends on a lot of factors, but when I do hear that, I'm like, oh, okay. So when I treat perpetrators and abusive individuals, when I can get to where she's at right here, I can say, okay, I'm sorry you're going through that, but good. This is good. You're actually speaking from your heart. You're not attacking. You're pleading, and you're sad and you're desperate. That's what is the foundation of all of this stuff. And that's okay. We're not going to be able to take away those feelings. Those feelings are real. What do you do with those feelings? That is the key. We do not want you to transform those feelings into anger and hostility and control and abuse. We want to not let that happen. Those feelings aren't going to go away anytime soon. It's okay. Those feelings are there, and it's unfortunate that you're having that panic because of what happened to you in the past. But don't run away from those feelings. Those feelings are here, unfortunately. Don't run away from them, because then you'll run towards hostility and control. Let's rewind that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so let me go, and you go, and I'll speak to you in a couple hours. Okay? Okay?
Stop. Okay.
Why are you saying stop?
Because
May
you're being
I
so-
go?
Please, it causes me so much stress when you leave, when you walk away from me with that. It's like you don't understand how much worse you're making this.
I can't believe this.
Please, you're making it worse for me.
Okay, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah, and then she says, it's your fault, you're making it worse for me. And of course, that's not fair. He absolutely should leave. They're having a conflict. It was probably one of those fights, right? And Johnny Depp's like, I don't want to get into this. We're going to take a break, come back, and everything will be fine. And she is saying, you can't leave. And he's saying, this is ridiculous. I can't take a break for a couple hours. Why? Now, I think what she will claim is that she was worried he was going to use and abuse and come back in this very abusive state. I don't hear that in his voice. He sounds pretty clear and not, I don't know, but maybe she knows something different. But I don't even think that's what she's communicating. I think what she's communicating is the abandonment trauma. And some of you might absolutely know what she is feeling because you feel it frequently. And if you do, remember, therapy with a specialist. Many of you are doing that right now and you're healing, which is great.
Please, I'm only trying to tell you so that you know you're causing me immense stress right now when you walk away like that. There's no reason to be mad.
Well, then say goodbye. I haven't walked away. You're not saying goodbye. You won't let me fucking leave. Let me leave.
Stop rushing me! Stop pushing me in the corner and then poking me with a stick and then saying, why aren't you saying the words you want me to say? Stop poking me! Stop rushing me! Stop throwing me against the wall and going, what? You don't like that wall? You don't like the fucking wall? Stop pushing me!
Remember? I'm not pushing you.
What is happening? So in the midst of saying, don't leave me, please don't leave me, and then he gets angry, which I don't recommend if you can handle it. If you're the Johnny Depp member of this situation, you want to just be the broken record to say, I love you, I'll be back in 3 hours, I'm not going to use, I'm doing this for us, and I feel like if we both calm down, we can have a much better constructive conversation. I'm doing this because I care about us. I don't want us to escalate. And so, let's just take a break, let's take a breather, know that I love you, let's hug, and I'll be back. And you just keep saying that, and then eventually you don't engage and you walk away. Hopefully the Amber Heard member lets you leave, of course, which is an awful phrase to say, let someone leave. But he gets angry and hostile, which I think for a lot of people would be understandable. And then seemingly out of nowhere, she says, stop pushing me up against the wall and poking me with a stick. And he quietly says, Amber, I'm not pushing you.
I'm not pushing you. I'm rushing you. I said, I need space. I don't want this conversation anymore right now. I need space. And I will take my space. Whether you like it or not, I will take it.
Was she speaking metaphorically? Like, you're pushing me up against a metaphoric wall? You're poking me with your metaphoric stick? You're leaving me and you're not telling me what I'm supposed to say to retain this relationship? And you're killing me, Lisa, that kind of thing.
And you will take your space. But if you keep halting
I'm not doing anything
this
to you.
and continuing
I'm
with
not
the rhetoric,
continuing it. I'm begging you to stop.
I don't. Okay, stop. I'm stopped. Stop. Now I have to go. Okay? So we will speak to each other in a couple.
Okay, I wonder what she'll say to this.
But this is not love. This is not happiness. This is not.
Please stop doing this. Please, you're causing me so much fucking stress. I'm gonna die at this age. I'm gonna fucking die. You're causing me so much stress. Please stop. Please. I feel like I have heart attacks almost every day. Please stop.
Yeah, I don't know, but if Dr. Curry's diagnosis is accurate and she has borderline, this is right down the middle, borderline behavior. Not everyone with borderline will do this at all. In fact, I would say half would have occasional moments like this, and maybe 10% would do this routinely. It's out of desperation, we understand. The amount of actual emotional pain that the individual would be going through in a situation like this would be so severe. And this is in 2016, so this is after a lot of conversations about divorce from both of them. So that's hanging over them both. And it would be totally rational for her to believe, like, this might be the last time I ever see him. It doesn't seem likely, but it's a possibility, or at the very least, this is the beginning of the end. And that's so triggering to somebody with borderline. Does not justify any kind of abusive, controlling behavior or guilt-tripping behavior, like, you're going to kill me if you leave. But it can feel that way to people with borderline. They're not lying. It's often framed as a manipulation, but that's not usually how I see it. It is literally how they feel. They feel like they are going to die. And she even mentioned heart attacks. I don't know, but if she didn't actually suffer from any kind of heart attack, it's not unusual for people with borderline and histrionic to have a lot of somatic psychogenic complaints where they will convert a lot of their stress into physical symptoms because of just how overwhelmed they are. Back pain, headaches, migraines, fatigue, all sorts of things, GI problems. So those kinds of things can be a manifestation of severe stress for anyone. And if you're suffering from borderline, you've been stressed out your entire life. When I talk with people with a high level of borderline, one of the things that I will assess is, one, how they can gauge their own distress level overall, but two, where are they at typically? And often what I'll hear from people that are borderline and histrionic is that they've never been below a 3 or a 4 in terms of their stress level. At best, when they are the most safe and the most secure and the most chill and the most happy, they still have an ongoing stress level that they're always aware of. They don't get used to it. They just don't talk about it or acknowledge it outwardly, because why would you? It'd sort of be like if you suffered from chronic pain. Eventually, you just stop signaling that you're in pain. You just stop talking about the pain because it gets mundane and boring to do so, but it doesn't mean the pain doesn't stop. And often others outside will say, well, you never talk about the pain. Are you sure you're in pain? And it's just like, well, it's every day for me. If I told you about my pain every day, I'd be talking to you about it every 30 seconds of my life. And that doesn't seem to be realistic. So there's a lot of distress. And then when they're triggered, they go up to a 10. So they're the best they can get to is a 4. And it's just a tremendous amount of pain, a lot of somatic issues. You can feel like you're having a heart attack. You can feel like you're going to die. And yeah, it doesn't make it okay. He should be able to leave and take a break, especially because he's saying, I just want to take a break and we'll come back and talk about it. And she's pleading. Either she is a very good actor who knows exactly what people with borderline do and is doing it on this recording that she doesn't know is going to be published or not, or she actually has borderline. I just can't think of another explanation as to what would explain all the behaviors, particularly things like this. It's just so quintessential, so quintessential. People with borderline they just crumble and they'll do anything. They will attack, they will plead, they'll do anything. And we hear that desperation right now. And people will sometimes threaten to kill themselves. Not necessarily as a manipulation, maybe, but often because that seems like a viable alternative to what's happening for them. Because remember, constant level of distress, there's abandonment happening, it's happening all over again, the tremendous amount of pain, the black and white thinking that it's like there's no chance of me that I'm gonna feel better later on, and often people with borderline have harming themselves in the background frequently anyway, because starting when they were a kid, they felt that they deserved that because that's how they were being treated. They have a constant ongoing stress level. Their relationships aren't going very well, and one can develop a escape route that is unfortunate to the individual. And so they will talk about these sorts of impulses as a way of alerting other people to the reality, but also as a way of like, if you don't leave me, then I won't do that, which sounds like a manipulation. And again, it can be manipulative, but often it is true to some, at least that's how they feel in the moment. And by the way, if any of you or you know anyone who is suffering from these kinds of thoughts, Google the suicide prevention hotline and you should be able to chat or talk with someone right away. It's important to have someone to talk to, whether it's a friend or a therapist, a teacher, a parent, someone, a mentor, or you can call one of these lines, because when people have spikes, they're usually very temporary. And if we can just get through those 1 or 2 days or even just 1 or 2 hours, on the other side of that is someone that will say, oh, I'm glad I got through that because I no longer want to do that anymore. I just had a temporary spike in those kinds of thoughts. So I am glad that I reached out to someone, because it's much harder to go down that road when you actually are talking with someone, particularly if you're talking to someone that cares and knows about what's happening to you. And if you have a friend that's like that reaches out to you, if you can, just be with, you don't have to solve their problem. You just be with it, just sit with them, just hang out with them, watch TV. It can be one of the best things you can do to save someone's life, to just sit next to someone. It's really hard to, one, deal with those thoughts and the reasons why people have those thoughts that are generated, but it's hard to act on those impulses when someone's just sitting right next to you. It can happen, but it's much easier to just say, well, not now. I mean, I'm watching TV with my friend. So if you can just get people through that day or that hour or that week, then on the other side, though, thanks for hanging out with me because I feel better now and you saved my life, that kind of thing. So, and of course, therapy, having a specialist in this area is very important. DBT is specifically designed, dialectical behavior therapy is specifically designed for people with these thoughts, particularly people with borderline who have these thoughts. So that's another treatment regimen that can help. But there are others as well, CBT and other kinds of therapies that are designed to treat people like that. So make sure that you get the help that you need. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.